morning and welcome back to my kitchen. It's fall. I've just finished decorating my house and I must say that fall is the best season of all. I'm going to talk this morning about pears because pears are so confusing to many people. And here at Davison's we grow 3 different kinds of pears and actually sell 4 different kinds of pears. So I have the various pears here in front. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about pears. I find that people find them confusing because some of them ripen on the tree and are ready to eat like an apple when you pick them, and other ones you pick at a certain stage of maturity and then you have to wait for them to ripen. Bartlett pears are probably the most common pear. That's the one that I have here in the middle, and it is definitely ripe and ready to eat. It's been 5 days, and the nice thing about Bartletts is that they more or less ripen evenly, so the whole box is ready to go if I was going to can them. Today I'm going to make a pear crisp with them and probably can a few with those that are left over. They were discovered in England in 1765, so they're over 250 years old. They're best known as a canning pear, but they're also delicious for fresh eating, for salads, and various other uses. So Bartletts are really an all-purpose pear. And then the next pear that we'll pick is this Bosque Pear. This is the first year we've had Bosque pears. We planted them a couple of years ago and they take about 3 to 4 years to produce. So last year we had a handful and really none for sale in the market, but this year we do. They're very unique pear. They're very russeted, which is this cinnamon colored blotchy that's on the surface of the skin, and it doesn't affect the flavor whatsoever, and that's actually a natural characteristic of the Bosque pear itself. And sometimes it'll cover just a portion of the pear and sometimes it'll cover the entire pear. Bosque pears are very popular in Europe. They were discovered in the 1800s and then brought to North America in about 1836. So they've been here a long time as well, maybe not quite as long as the Bartletts. You can tell a Bosque by its unique shape, and if you look closely at the stem you can see that it's starting to wrinkle a little bit, and that's how you know if they're ripe. You take your finger and you push it lightly at the stem, and if it gives way it's ready to eat. So unlike a Bartlett pear, a Bosque pear never really turns yellow. It's a lot denser of a pear, it's very sweet, and it'll be more crisp than a Bartlett. You pick these when they're green on the tree, the same with the Bartletts, and as well as the Anjou pears. And Tom has a handy little gadget called a pressure tester. And so what he'll do is he'll puncture the pear and he'll check the pressures of the pear, and as the pressures start to lower, he knows that it's mature and ready to harvest. The best way to ripen Bosque pears, Anjou pears, and Bartlett pears is just to leave them on your counter. And if you do not want them to ripen, then you can keep them cool and they'll be slower to ripen. Or on the other side of the scale, if they are ripe but you can't eat that many, pop them in the fridge and that will hold them as well. Next pear we're going to talk about is an Asian pear, which is this one. A lot of people say that it's a cross between an apple and a pear, and actually it has a lot of similar characteristics to an apple, but it is not really a cross at all. But it's like an apple for one thing, the shape, it looks like an apple, and secondly, you pick it ripe off the tree and it's ready to eat as soon as you pick it. So that's different than all of these other pears, is that it's ripe, ready to eat. This is the oldest pear that I know of. It's over 3,000 years. It was either developed and propagated in Japan or China. I'm not sure which, but they've been using this pear over 3,000 years in those Asian countries. And it's mostly eaten fresh. And what they actually do is slice it across, and it has a star shape, again, similar to an apple. And they'll serve it on a board with cheese. So very, very popular in both Japan, China, and all of those Asian countries. And we actually don't grow this pear. This is the one of the 4 different pears that we sell that we don't grow. They're grown by a wonderful farmer in Naramata, and so he brings his crop to us and we sell them here in the market. So they're definitely local, just not grown on our farm like the rest of these pears are. So the last pear that I'm going to talk about is the Anjou pear, which is this one here, and it has a very different shape as well, more like an egg. This will be harvested early October here at the farm, And again, Tom will do a pressure test on it to see if the pressure's right, ready to mature, and it will ripen in storage. So this pear will last right until Christmas usually, and they don't ripen all at the same time like a Bartlett. Like we saw this box of Bartlett pears and it ripened completely all together, whereas these will ripen very inconsistently, so which is actually good if you're buying a box of pears. They don't ripen all together, so you just look for the color will change slightly, but not like a Bartlett. Just press lightly around the stem of the pear, and if it gives way, it's ready to eat. The reason that you do that close to the stem is that it's connected to the core, and all pears ripen from the inside out. So if you press by the core, you're going to get a closer reading on whether the pear is ripe. Today I'm going to do the simplest recipe of all. So simple you almost don't need a recipe. But I was kind of thinking, what should I make? It's apple season, but then I thought, you know, it's pear season too. And then my daughter Leah sent me a text and said, this is our family's new favorite recipe, Pear Cardamom Crisp. And it's so easy. So I'm going to just show you how to make it. Like I said, it's their family favorite, and it's pear season, so if you've got some pears, why not give it a try? It uses the spice cardamom, which I'm not all that familiar with because it's quite a different spice, not something I use in most cooking, but it's very popular and probably the main ingredients in chai spice mix, so you probably tasted it even if you haven't used it a lot. It's very popular in Mid-Eastern cooking as well as in Nordic countries. In Sweden, they use it in everything. They use it in sweet dishes, savory dishes, and they even put it in their coffee. So, the recipe calls for a half a teaspoon of cardamom. And cardamom is one of those spices that blends very well with cinnamon and cloves as well. So those spices to me just say fall all together. So we got a half a teaspoon, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 3 tablespoons of flour. So I'll just use a fork to blend it together. And really all this does is mix up the spices nicely, and then when you mix that with your fresh pears, it will help to thicken the pears a little bit for your crisp. So I'll set that aside while I begin to prepare my pears. You'll want to peel the pears. It's not absolutely necessary, but when the peeling cooks, it doesn't look as attractive. So I like to peel my pears. Peel the whole pear. You can see how juicy this Bartlett is, and yet it's still on the firm side. But like I said earlier, it's not as dense a pear as the others. Pears are great in smoothies, so if you find that your pears have gotten too ripe and you don't really like the taste of a soft pear, throw it in your smoothie because they do taste great. For this recipe, you will need 6 pears, unless you're using a bigger container. I'm going to use an 8x8 or a 6x8 container, and I know that 6 pears fits just about perfect in there. And like I said before, this is a very easy recipe. Just going to core them. Chop them up into big chunks into this bowl. Before you begin, turn your oven on to bake, and you want to have it at about 350 degrees. So while your oven is warming up, you can begin your recipe. It's chopped pears, and here's our blend of spices and flour. So I'll just dump that in, and then I'm mixing this all together. That just evenly distributes the spices throughout the recipe, throughout the pear crisp. And then the flour will help thicken it a little bit because those pears really are juicy. Dump your pears in. Add a half a package of the farmhouse crumble topping, 1.5 or so cups just to be sprinkled on top. And then pop it in your preheated oven, 350 for a good 35 minutes. It's been a good 45 minutes and our pear crisp should be ready. It's bubbling on the edges and the crisp is nice golden brown, so it looks absolutely perfect. If you found this video helpful, press the like button and subscribe for more videos.